can you talk a little bit about the changes that you've seen in this almost 20 years now of responding to these disasters and caring for families and mobilizing? Can you what sort of changed or evolved in those maybe 20 years?
Yeah, and I love the question, and I appreciate you asking it, because I think there are a number of things I think have changed over the years, but here's one of the biggest. We're allowed to talk about accidents today. 20 years ago, nobody really wanted to talk about an accident. And if they did, they talked about it only from the investigative standpoint. And the investigative piece, bar none, certainly very, very important. But the larger aspect of it in terms of manpower and whatnot certainly comes with the families. And now you have family advocacy groups that are working with Congress to change legislation on the number of hours a pilot has to have in order to fly. You have airlines that now have to have at least a structure in place to respond to an organization. There's airlines that come together through industry trade groups where, emergency response isn't necessarily proprietary. So airlines get together and say, well, here's what we do in our plan. What do you do in your plan? Hey, that's a good idea. I'm going to use that. Is that okay? They go to each other's training program. They talk to surviving family members, people that have lost people in accidents, and say, what worked well in the accident you experienced? It's usually a number of years later. What did the airline do that was good? What did the airline do that was bad? And there are surviving family members and survivors from accidents that want to tell you what was good and what was bad. And so we all talk about it and we learn from it, which is one of the reasons I wrote the book. Thankfully, there aren't many accidents. And there aren't many of us that have responded to the number of accidents like I have and several other team members have. And so I wanted people to be able to read it and realize that people do come through the accident, and so do the team members. I think what I would want anybody that reads the book or listens to the podcast to know is that at the end of the day, we're all human beings that are trying to make the best of just a horrific situation. And as scary as it is to go and work with somebody and be assigned to somebody that has lost a family member, what they want to see from a fellow human being at the end of the day is compassion and empathy and the humanity behind the organization. And I think, and it would be easy for me to get all emotional and say, look, that's really what life is all about. But seriously, it really is. I've worked 12 accidents. And the commonalities between them are that, regardless of the country you're from or the culture you're from, people want to be treated with respect and honesty and with compassion and dignity. And if we treat folks that way, they'll move on, and we'll be able to move on in the aftermath of that disaster.
Well, and so Ken, I want to thank you, and I want to thank a lot of people. So first of all, thank you for coming on, and thank you for talking about the book. Thank you for writing the book. But my thanks goes out to these normal human beings that have decided to sacrifice and to volunteer to be in very difficult situations and providing what is possibly the most important job in all of this, which is just to partner and care for these people that have gone through such terrible times. So my thanks to the people that aren't named and aren't mentioned, and you have to sort of imagine in the book that have gone to such great lengths and such sacrifices to help people. It's
thousands of them all over the world that work for airlines, and I appreciate you and that thanks. They're a great group of people, and I've had the luxury of work and the privilege of working with them, and family members that were gracious enough to let us in their homes and their hearts to work with them too. So Ken Jenkins, thank you so much for being on. Ken's book, Resilience, Stories of Courage and Survival in Aviation Disasters. It's really a window into a world that we would never otherwise see. Really a special window into a part of the resilience and business continuity and emergency planning field that we would otherwise never see. So Ken, thank you so very much for being on today. Thank you very much.